7 count? It was a 7? Did Mike see it? Then it doesn't count.
There's something wrong with your sister.
What are you talking about?
She's got a stick up her butt.
Yeah, it's because she's been dating that douchebag Steve Harrington.
Yep, she's turning into a real jerk.
She's always been a real jerk.
She used to be cool. Like that time she dressed up as an elf for our Elder Free campaign.
4 years ago!
Just saying.
Later. It was a 7.
Huh?
The roll, it was a 7. The Demogorgon, it got me. See you tomorrow.
That is how Byler was born. Just kidding.
If you don't know it by now, Byler is the ship between Will Byers and Mike Wheeler from Stranger Things. And as I was watching through season 1, I was watching it and thinking, how is this gonna be an analysis video? I mean, all the seasons are involved, sure, but in season 1 specifically, not only does the whole season have a whole different vibe from the rest of the show, but it also has this sort of subtlety about it. Like, you don't really get much. All you get is, Will being missing. Like, think about this. Byler is the ship between Will Byers and Mike Wheeler, and Will is missing for the whole season. He's only here for the first episode and maybe the last episode. That's it. So, my question is, how do you build Byler off of so little in season 1 specifically? Because I know there was definitely Byler shippers when the first season of Stranger Things came out. And I'm not saying that there isn't evidence and whatnot, but what I am saying is there's so little there. Most of it is just them looking for clues and seeing how Will's missing and all that. But then you get this scene.
Look, he's a sensitive kid. Lonnie used to say he was queer, called him a fag.
Is he?
He's missing, is what he is.
What? Imagine it's 2018 and Insatiable just came out. You're thinking of watching the new Incredibles 2 or something. And then you're watching this new show, Stranger Things, and you hear that Will Byers is rumored to be gay. I imagine, especially with shipping culture between, regular characters, this is definitely a big deal. A lot of cringy fanfics were made back in 2018. A lot of good ones too, but a lot of cringy ones specifically. And so I imagine when you hear that, Lonnie used to be a little homophobic to Will, some people, especially, shippers of already other gay stuff, would think, oh my gosh, you have this dude Michael looking for him. You have him defending Will when Will's not even here. In fact, he was the one who stayed up while everyone else slept right next to him. So there might be something here. I'm assuming that's what it was back when this ship first became a thing, because I don't know, in 2018, I was not into Stranger Things. I was doing other stuff. I was like a kid. Anyway. Now, I will say, I was not around in the early shipping days of Byler and Stranger Things in season 1. But I do know shipping culture, with gay ships specifically, was a little questionable back then. Side note, I feel the need to bleach my eyes after looking at this image. If you've ever seen this anime, check their hard drive. Anyway, but yeah, gay shipping culture was very questionable back then. You had a lot of fantasy animes and Wattpad fan fictions and whatnot being made.
But Pookie, you promised you wouldn't hurt them.
Not here, Kitten Whiskers. Danny will discuss it later.
to cater to that sort of audience and infantilizing those kind of relationships, basically. So I'm not going to say that everybody shipping Byler specifically saw its potential. I am going to say that there was a lot of stuff being produced and a lot of people shipping just to fantasize, and, you know, shipping and fantasizing are just two different things. When you fantasize something, it's you're objectifying it. You're making it into a fantasy. Okay, in this situation. But with shipping, you just want two characters to be together because they're cute together. Basically,
people in this ship are made for each other. Like puzzle pieces, they form a picture so perfect, so right, that to separate them would be denying them of their full potential, both as individuals and as a unit. That potential that propels them forward into the storyline.
With that being said, just wanted to be clear on the fact that not everybody was super innocent in their shipping back then, and I'm not going to pretend like they were, so on to the next part of it. Okay, season 2. Okay, so aside from being my favorite season, season 2, so all my points here for season 2 are basically the invert of season 1. Will was barely there in season 1. Now in season 2, he's the main character. Mike and Will don't really have that many interactions in season 1. Now Mike's literally there for Will most of the time in season 2. There are so many things about this season that I love, and it's not just because of all the Byler scenes. It's a little bit of the whole Halloween atmosphere and how it's done so well, how even though I've seen this season like a bunch of times, it never fails to creep me out about all the possessed Will scenes and the scene where Hopper is in the like tunnels and Will's drawing all the stuff. It's just so creepy. It never gets old. And the fact, I just love all the storylines. You know how people have that problem with seasons where as it goes on, characters' actions tend to be a little less themselves, a little out of character. You might just have a scene that makes you go, but they would never do that. Season 2, maybe because it's so new, or maybe because they only intended season 1 to be its own thing, but everything feels really in character for all these people, and I never really have any major issues. Even with that one episode that people didn't really seem to like for some reason, I really liked that storyline. It's nice. It doesn't need to be something they return to, but it definitely fits in season 2. So I just wanted to say before we get into the Byler stuff, there's so much stuff I appreciate about this season. So, yeah. Back to Byler. Okay, so where to start? Probably with the famous Crazy Together scene. So Will is, if you don't remember, last season he was still puking up slugs and keeping it on the down low after being back from the Upside Down. And in season 2, he's starting to have visions. He's starting to see into the Upside Down. He has a little moment at the arcade. And, Mike's the one to pull him back into the arcade. Eventually, some bullies scare him down, and Mike pulls him right back out. But this time, Mike notices something's completely wrong with Will, obviously. And he's irritated because they brought Max along for trick-or-treating. So, who's the first person that Will opens up to about his visions? Mike. And that's where you get this scene.
And there was this noise coming from everywhere. And then I saw something.
Demogorgon?
No. It was like this huge shadow in the sky. Only it was alive. And it was coming for me.
Is this all real? Or is it, like the doctors say, all in your head?
I don't know. Just please don't tell the others, okay? They won't understand.
11 would?
She would?
Yeah. She always did. Sometimes I feel like I still see her. Like she's still around, but she never is. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm going crazy.
Me too.
Hey, well, If we're both going crazy, then we'll go crazy together, right?
Yeah. Crazy together.
It's a great little bonding moment. It just shows how safe they feel around each other. Like, Mike is confiding in Will because, you know, Will can understand about upside down and magic problems because he's going a little crazy not having heard from Elle since she basically disintegrated in front of him in season 1. And Will feels safe enough to talk to him about the fact that something is happening to him and he doesn't know how to explain it, and there are no Ghostbusters around to help him. Now, I can't remember what year this season came out, but I was definitely not into Stranger Things when season 2 came out. And I don't exactly know when the uptake in fics and fan culture around Byler had started going up, but I do know that nowadays, as I'm reading fics and stuff on Stranger Things, I can see a lot of examples of crazy together scenes, how it could have went and everything. Basically multiple fan fictions around this scene. There was a whole crazy together day thing tag on AO3 where you would write just basically any Byler fluff fic or whatever. And I think because of that, it's just, when I look at it from the future now, it looks like such a big deal on AO3, like a lot of rise in Byler fanfics. No, I can't say for sure because I wasn't there, but I can say, looking at it now, I do see a lot of crazy together fics, and I would totally believe it if someone said that this was the point where they decided to start writing fics on Stranger Things Byler. So, kind of looks like to me that this scene was a bit of a big deal. I mean, if you had been shipping it from season 1 and you saw that, I'd be like, okay, wow, we're getting some content. I get some stuff to build off of. We didn't even think this show was going to get a season 2, so yeah. Anyway, there are a lot of examples of Mike being there for Will in season 2, which is already building a pretty strong case for Byler, in my opinion. Because I'm saying this as someone looking back and did not, know about Byler or anything. I was watching through all the first seasons, like, when I was younger. And before we jump right into the most Byler scene of the season, I've got to say there's just a lot of small and subtle examples, like how Mike's the first person to go to Joyce because he's the only one who knew about the fact that Will was having visions in the first place. There's the fact that Will was yelling for Mike in the hospital and nobody can tell me otherwise. Roll a clip. There's also the fact that Will recognized him, or, at least the Mind Flayer, or some part of Will, recognized Mike, not his mom, because remember, he was pretending to know who his mom was.
He's lying! Will, listen. Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? Your mom. Let go! Let me go! I'm sorry! Let me go! Let go!
He didn't recognize Hopper. He didn't recognize Bob. He didn't recognize Bob, but he did recognize Mike in the hospital. And there's also the fact that Mike was the first one to realize that Will was even possessed. He was the one who, told everybody that it was a trap. And sure, when 11 gets back, during some cut at the end of one of the episodes, there is some emotions and dramatics because Mike finds out that Hopper's been hiding 11. But tell me, what compares? Mike screaming at Hopper over the fact that he basically thought Elle died and Hopper's just been hiding her all this time? Or this scene?
It was the first day of kindergarten. I knew nobody. I had no friends. And I just felt so alone and so scared. But I saw you on the swings and you were alone too. You're just swinging by yourself. And I just walked up to you and I asked if you wanted to be my friend. And you said yes. You said yes. It was the best thing I've ever done.
Other than the fact that I'm pretty sure hundreds of Byler fanfics instantly spawned of either ending with or having a flashback to Mike and Will together on some swings right after that scene was premiered or played, whatever. I don't know how this came out on Netflix. Again, I wasn't in Stranger Things back then. That was a lot. That little bit right there, that was Will breaking through. That was him making his way through for a little bit after that super emotional speech from Mike, but then going right back to being possessed, which is not something you see happen when anybody else is giving their speeches. And I think it's right after that scene that they actually confirm that Will's using his hands to talk in Morse code, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that's the most Byler scene of the season. I can't speak much for the fanfics or the culture back then. The most I have to say about it is that there are a lot of Crazy Together fics. There's a lot of fics about them on the swings. There's a lot of little edits and everything made about this. There was just a lot. I know rewatching that season, I'm very focused on Byler and getting sucked into the atmosphere. It's like you rewatch it for the Byler, but then you get sucked in because of all the other interesting plot lines going on as well. And yeah, like I said, can't speak much for the fandom back then during on season 2 because I wasn't in the fandom, but I can say that rewatching it and rereading some of the fanfics from back then, it's clear that this obviously had an effect on how many people shipped Byler, and I wholeheartedly believe that the amount of shippers definitely tripled after this. So, away from my favorite season, sadly, let's get into the season 3 rewatch. Okay, so when you think of Stranger Things Season 3, what do you think of? Because if you aren't making an analysis video on Byler or have consumed a lot of Byler content, I'm assuming it's somewhere around, maybe you think of the 80s aesthetic, maybe you think of all the sponsorships and that one really long Coca-Cola scene, maybe you think of something like that, or maybe you even think of the Russians. Well, good for you. You're not chronically online. What I think about when I hear about Season 3 is this.
Now what's on your nasty old mind?
I hope we're still friends, yeah, I hope you don't mind. I hope we're still friends, yeah, I hope you don't mind. I hope we're still friends, yeah, I hope you don't mind.
Okay, so did I choose an edit to represent Season 3 intro because it literally starts off with Mike and Eleven making out? Maybe, but also because it's there for a reason. The reason is it had an effect. I know that when I was watching Stranger Things Season 3, I was seeing lots of edits everywhere, and I was like, I should pick back up Stranger Things. I should start watching it. And sure, that edit was made in like 2023, but it's 2024 now, and I still remember seeing just a bunch. Like, I have to say, Season 3 is one of the most shippable seasons of all Stranger Things. You could ship any two characters together, and you'd probably see a good amount of chemistry with them for this season. I was becoming a lot more aware of different tags now that Season 3 had been out. By the way, that's when I was getting into Stranger Things at around 2019, 2020. That's when I started watching it. So, basically, tags everywhere in fanfics. Lumax, Lmax, Byler, Jopper, Stancy. Well, that one's a little old, but you know, basically, you get the point. Also, Byclair. Not a lot of fics, but enough to be mentioned in this little summarization of ship names. Okay, so a lot of Season 3 is going to be Will, mostly because there's so much that you can see and so many scenes and examples to add to Will's part. But let's focus on Mike for a little bit. So in the beginning, when he's hanging out with Elle, calling her every day, blowing off Will, blah, 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 I think he genuinely does like her. I think they're having a relationship. He isn't even thinking about Will at the moment. But as the season goes on, you'll see different examples where that his emotions for Elle come into question with the way he reacts to some of the stuff that goes on with Will. Let's take the first problem, for example. Harper threatens Mike and basically says that they're spending way too much time together. Mike is forced to lie to Elle. He's freaking out about Lucas about it. He's talking with him. He's trying to buy expensive presents. He's just so confused. He's like, what do I do? Do I call her? Do I not call her? What do I do? Do we go to the store? Oh no, the stuff is too expensive. And then when Elle breaks up with him, his face looks like this. A mix of confusion and disgust, not devastation.
While editing, I'd say the best way to describe it is more like, did she just break up with me? Other than like, oh my god, she just broke up with me, you know?
Now, when so many things I could say right now, but the main thing I'm gonna say is whenever he seems to be having a problem with Elle, he looks confused, flabbergasted, a little paranoid, trying to hurry up and fix things and get things back together, which is kind of like saying, oh well, this is how things are supposed to be. I like her, she likes me, I need to fix this, we need to get this back going, basically. Now, I do think Mike liked Elle in season 1. I think he really missed her as like friends in season 2, and I think in season 3 he thought, he might still be liking her, so he started dating her, and then he really liked her. But there's this whole thing that can kind of explain Mike's syndrome, because think about this. His friendship with Will is very close. It's close in, normalized close male friendships that are being gay, obviously. But I think in this situation, it's just different because season 3 shifted that narrative. I wouldn't be going back and watching season 1 and season 2 if I hadn't seen season 3 and 4. So basically, it shifted that narrative from a close friendship to a close friendship with internalized homophobia, mostly on Mike's side. Also, if you didn't know, internalized homophobia is a phenomenon where sexual minorities adopt and apply the homophobic biases of the sexual majority to themselves. It can affect anybody who is not heterosexual, such as lesbian, gay, or bisexual people. Internalized homophobia can cause negative feelings and behaviors, such as self-hatred, denial, or avoidance of one's sexual orientation. In Mike's case, I would go with avoidance, because let's be honest, he was not being that great of a friend to Will, or really anybody in this season. He was just girl crazy. Until Will gets all fed up about the fact that they're just not taking his D&D game seriously. They get into an argument, and then Mike says it's not his fault that Will doesn't like girls. And this does shift things tremendously for both of them. I mean, Will just shuts Mike out and stops talking to him, and there is no hesitation. He's with Elle, he's all, okay, Lucas, what do I do? How do I get her back? She broke up with me. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to buy. With Will, it's not like that at all. Will stops talking to him and he runs off, and he's immediately running back to his door saying that he messed up. He's immediately feeling guilty. He's the one who finds him at Castle Byers. He's determined. He literally doesn't stop until he finds him, and there's nothing, he doesn't do anything else about it. It's just as simple as that. It's not as complicated. And I think that says something for Mike, who may or may not be in denial about having stronger feelings for his best friend than his girlfriend, and how he reacted. It's not like when Will was all upset and everything under the driveway, it's not like Mike was talking about, oh, it's not my fault. You're so, why are you so obsessed with D&D? Why? No, he just immediately went to, it's not my fault you don't like girls. And either he's been holding that back for a while and that's a little cruel, or internalized homophobia, and I think we all know internalized homophobia is the more realistic option. This time when I say internalized homophobia, I'm leaning more towards denial, because after you've had such a strong fight with your best friend and you've been going through these things, like, there's a shift. As soon as Will turns off the music and gets upset, Mike is not confused at all. He's panicking. He's worried. He's trying to fix it. He's like, come on, we can just finish the game. I was being stupid. Let's go. And he immediately forgets about Elle because his friend is upset. But that seems like a much stronger emotion than what he felt when Elle broke up with him, when he had to lie to Elle. Just the way it's acted and the way it's played, it feels very intentional. And that's why for Mike, when he says, it's not my fault you don't like girls in the middle of an argument, it doesn't really feel like he's saying, it's not my fault you're not interested in having a girlfriend and you don't like girls. He's saying he doesn't like Elle and he's confused and frustrated about it. That's what it feels like taking all the context in the moment and like just the whole scene from beginning to where they're trying to play, for where Will's trying to play D&D, to the end where Will's riding off in the rain. It just feels like that. It, like, the delivery and just the way he's been acting supports this. And with that, we're over the Mike-centric portion of season 3. On to Will. Okay, so this is the portion where people start to feel for Will, and for good reason. He was going through it in season 2. He was in the Upside Down for a whole week straight in season 1, but those days are over. He's got worse problems to deal with now. Not only is he constantly paranoid because he's been having the little flutterings but not getting possessed over by the Mind Flayer because it's now in a physical form, but now he's back and he has to watch Mike smooch all over Elle and ditch him over and over again while all he asks to do is play D&D. So really, even if the Mind Flayer didn't come back this season, all of his friends have girlfriends now and none of them want to play D&D with him. So, sucks either way. Kicking things off with our familiar season 2 roots, Will has a little moment in the movie theater, feeling a little something from the Mind Flayer, and who's the first to notice? Mike, of course. And with Will, most of his scenes up to this point are just slow burning to the rain scene, because all you see is Mike freaking out over his girlfriend and Will asking to play D&D and spend time with his friends. And when the rain scene finally does happen, when he finally snaps and stops talking to Mike, is this like air of acceptance about him. Like, when Mike comes to apologize in the pouring rain, Will is all like, something's off. We need to go talk to Elle. I think the Mind Flayer's back. I don't think he like accepts his apology. He just kind of accepts that that's just how Mike is now. And even when Luke apologizes, he's just like, yeah, whatever. We gotta go focus on the Mind Flayer. There's bigger things to worry about right now. And it's just kind of like put to the side. So I'd say the only time we actually revisit how Will feels on the matter is at the end of the season, where he's saying goodbye to everyone and packing his stuff and leaving and crying in the car. That's really the only indication that we get that he's like honestly upset about it. But it does kind of seems like he's accepted that this is just the kind of person that Mike is now. And for the end of the season, in Mike's perspective, this is also where we see how he feels about the whole situation, because you know, this is what I mean when I say ambiguous facial expressions. When Elle breaks up with him, it's more like, did she just break up with me? And when she kisses him at the end of the season, it's like, okay, this is what he's been working for. He's been trying to get them back together and trying to get stuff, you know, back working. But after everything that's happened with Will, and coupled by the fact that he's moving away and Elle's moving away, his face is just like, it's not what you want to see after you kiss somebody. Let's put it that way. And it also makes the whole moment in the store earlier where he was trying to tell Elle that he loves her, it kind of makes it seem like overcompensation, because when, like, it's like after you've already gone through all this with Will and everything, all the drama, it's like he doesn't even know how to say it. And then when she does kiss him at the end of the season, it's not like he looks happy.
I love you too.
Are you kidding me? Look at her face versus his face. It's the most one-sided kiss I've ever seen.
New plan because I love her and I can't lose her again.
now that we've seen the aftermath of the scene, the lead up to the scene, and how they were both feeling during the scenes, respectively, let's now watch not only the most Byler scene of the season, but the scene that permanently changed the dynamic of Will and Meg's friendship.
Fine. You guys win. Congratulations.
Will, I was just messing around.
Hey, let's finish for real. Yeah. How much longer is the campaign? Just forget it, Mike. No, you want to keep playing, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. We'll just call the girls afterwards. I said forget it, Mike, okay? I'm going home.
Will, come on. You can't leave, it's raining. Listen, I said I was sorry, all right?
Yeah, Mike, that's the problem. You guys are never in the mood anymore. You're ruining our party. You're destroying everything, and for what? So you can swap spit with some stupid girl? Elle's not stupid. It's not my fault you don't like girls.
I'm not trying to be a jerk, okay? I mean, what did you think, really? That we were never gonna get girlfriends? That we were just gonna sit in my basement all day and play games for the rest of our lives?
Yeah. I guess I did. I really did. Will, come on! Will, I'm sorry, man, all right? I was being a total asshole.
Also, I found this comment that kind of wraps this whole situation up in a nutshell. If I could just put it all in one comment, this is what I would comment.
Also, we can't leave without talking about Robin. More specifically, how she figured out the Russian code. Because if I remember correctly, the code was, the silver cat feeds. A trip to China sounds nice if you tread lightly when blue meets yellow in the West. And let me tell you, the main part to focus on in that code is when blue meets yellow in the West. Even before season 4 came out, I remember people making these edits and everything just like, when blue meets yellow in the West, because Michael wears blue and Will wears yellow. It was like the main thing when people were talking about the ship. Like, you'd be like, oh, you ship Byler? Oh, why? Just like, oh, because blue meets yellow in the West. It just makes so much sense. So whether you were a hardcore Byler shipper from day one, or you were just discovering it in season 3, you had seen and heard of Byler along with all the other season 3 Stranger Things edits and stuff that was being posted at the time. So basically, there was already a fandom being created off of these seasons and these moments, but it would only really start to see a boom in popularity sometime after season 4 came out. So, apart from some throwaway fics and some season 3 themed fics that were made sometime after season 4, there wasn't really any fanfics or fandom with stuff being produced about Byler that back then. Besides edits and matching profile pictures and whatever, I don't know, people posting on Pinterest. And with that, it seems like we have wrapped up all the Byler fandom and culture of season 3. With that, let's go ahead and move into season 4.